Okay, so in this video, we are going to discuss what effect the enforced hardware restrictions on Windows 11 is going to have on the used PC market. So my veracity as far as, saying I know what I'm talking about here, I've sold used computers locally since 2005, I think, was when I first started. I think I got a little bigger on '06, but I think I first started around, yeah, around 2000. Yeah, it definitely would have been 2005. So I've got nearly 20 years of doing this. Um, Now, I can't speak for every single person and every single person that would buy a computer. Everyone's different, but I can speak for the trends that I saw when I was selling computers. So, one of the ways that it's going to affect, probably the biggest way, in my opinion, is so. So right now, if you sell on the used market, uh, my experience lately has been most people don't seem to want 11 by and large. I get a few people who do. However, that's not going to stay that way. Um, you know, OS adoption happens at different rates depending on a common perception of the OS, what people have heard about it, that kind of things. But eventually, we will get to the point where people want the current OS. And what that's going to do is that it's going to make it so right now what you can do is you can go out and buy, let's say, a fourth gen. A great example of a mid-spec pre-owned build would be an i7 4790K, 16 gigs of RAM with a GTX 1070. That is a system that's going to perform great. The gaming performance on that system is going to be awesome. The only people that are not going to be happy with the gaming performance of that system are people who really shouldn't be buying hardware in those kind of price ranges anyway. Because in today's market, I can't speak to everyone, but in today's market, if I put together a system like that, by the time I put the time and effort, load the OS, go out, pick up the hardware, run it through a full set of tests, troubleshoot, clean it out, make it so it's like a new build for someone. I'm going to want to pick that build up for, say, $100, $150, maybe less, depending on the video card, if it does have that 1070. But I'm going to want to buy that build for, say, $100, $150, and I'm going to want to resell that build for somewhere between $350 and $450. So all said and done, depending on what you value my time at, you're probably looking at $150, $200 profit, all said and done, if you do it right. It's going to eliminate the ability. So the 4790K and its board and the RAM are almost zero value. The only value that those parts have when you buy them are the value that you're going to give them by putting the time and effort in to build a system with them. Okay, and then your 1070 is the part that really has some sort of appreciable value. So you're basically paying, let's say you bought that system for $100, you're basically paying $60 for that 1070, and then $40 for the old case, the power supply, the CPU, the motherboard, the RAM, all of the rest of that stuff. So you're basically the rest of those parts are almost zero value, and they only become worth what you make them worth by putting your time and effort in to produce that system. Well, once you have a situation where they enforce these hardware limits, what's going to happen, at least in my opinion, is that no one is going to want that older hardware, except for enthusiasts, except for those of us who already know what we're doing. The people who don't know what they're doing that buy computers from us, they're not going to want that stuff anymore because they're not going to want to deal with the hassle. Even if you can get it to run Windows 11, I mean, you and me might be able to, but those people, they're not going to want to deal with the hassle with having to worry about their licensing. To those of us that are, most of you watching this, getting that message that says your copy of Windows has an invalid key. That's not a big deal to us. It's to some of these people, that's like the end of the world. Like that's like it's really incredible how big of a deal the very, very minor issues that those of us who know computers and know how to work on our computers, it's really impressive how big of a deal some of our minor issues become for some of the people that buy this stuff that don't really know what they're doing. So you're not going to be able to buy a zero value 4790 board, chip, RAM, case, and everything. You're only going to be able to buy hardware that's reasonably current, right? So the theory I have is that the further from current the hardware gets, the more you have situations where, for example, somebody just has an old computer sitting in their garage, right? So fourth generation is 2014. That's hardware that most of us enthusiasts still consider good. You could have a computer built in 2014, that's 10 years ago, that has i7 4790K, good enthusiast board, good case, good power supply, and maybe it has a 980 Ti, or maybe it has an upgrade card. Maybe it's got a GTX 1080 in it or something like that. That computer, most of the people who you're going to buy hardware from are going to be non-enthusiasts in many cases, especially if you want good deals. And so you're going to have a lot of situations right now where it's just an old computer sitting in the corner of the garage. They don't know what the value of that is to me and you. And you're not going to see as much of that because the space of time for somebody to forget that that's good hardware and how much they paid for it, it's going to be a lot less. So people are going to remember what they paid for that hardware. They're going to remember that that computer cost them $2,000-$3,000. I mean, let's say you got an 8700K with like a 2080 and 64 gigs of DDR4 and a high-end power supply, a high-end case. That's, with how prices have been getting over the last several years, that could be a system that cost them $2,000 or $3,000. Now they're going to remember, okay? And it's not about screwing people over. It's just about the fact that one man's trash is another man's treasure, right? And so you're not going to have the situations where you're able to pick up those giveaway deals anymore. Not as often, anyway. I mean, there's a whole host of other issues, but my biggest concern is that it's going to destroy the value of hardware that otherwise would have been perfect for people just looking for basic entry. You know, they want their kid to play Fortnite. I mean, come on, we all know that you can build a system that can hit Fortnite like 120 FPS at like at least 1080, if not 1440. I mean, you can do that with a 4790K and like say a 1070, 1080, 980 Ti. You can do that on that system. And that's all these people want. And now they're not going to be able to get, say, a $250 budget build that they can do that on anymore. I mean, obviously, I know I've given kind of a range of prices. It really just depends on the deal, the value that the seller puts on the hardware, that kind of thing. But you're just not going to see as many of those types of deals anymore. And it's going to be bad for both buyers and sellers. I mean, me being a seller, I'm more of a buyer now than I am a seller, but I used to be really big. So I know where those of you who actually get, you know, meaningful amounts of your income from this stuff, I know where you're coming from on this stuff. And you're not going to be able to go and get, because as you probably know, if you pick up a computer for say $50, right? You can make a profit on that computer if you resell it for dirt cheap at, you know, $250, $300. But if you have to pay, you know, $350, $400, it really diminishes your profit margin. It also is going to diminish, a lot of people aren't going to have the money to put into that, because that means you've got a lot more money into inventory. So before, where you could have bought the parts for say 5 or 6 systems for, you know, under $1,000, now, if I'm correct, just several systems. You're going to have several systems will be $1,000 worth of inventory. And 3 or 4 systems might suddenly be $1,000 plus in inventory. So again, this video is from the standpoint of how I believe it's going to affect people that basically deal in used PCs, which was me at one point. So anyway, I hope you guys found this interesting, and this topic seems to be very popular based on the views I got in the video. So I'm gonna address it from several different standpoints. This is addressing this specific use case, this specific set of buyers, and this specific set of sellers. This doesn't apply to everyone. So if you see this video, don't assume I'm necessarily talking to you. If I'm talking to you, you know I'm talking to you. So anyway, thanks again for watching, and I hope you find this informative.